What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome here to my conference finals predictions of the 2025 NBA playoffs. And I did not expect these four teams to be the last four standing. I think at one point in the year, you could have convinced yourselves that one of these teams could win it all in a way. But I think a lot of people expected it to be Thunder and then Cavs and Celtics, one of those two teams coming out of the East. Obviously, neither one of those two teams are playing in the conference finals, as the Pacers upsetted the Cavs in 5, the Knicks upsetted the Celtics in 6, and I think we are in store for a fantastic conference finals on both sides. We'll start off in the Eastern Conference, a series that I'm going to have a little bit more appeal to. I'm going to have a little more stress to, and yeah, I'm going to be locked in a little bit more too, just because I am a Knicks fan. I've never seen them make it this far, and they are going to be, I think they are favorites going into this by the betting odds. I'm not super confident that they're going to win this series, but I'm really excited for it as a whole because the Pacers have been one of the best teams in the playoffs. And I think we all expected, or at least I did, if there was going to be a team that was going to make it out of the Eastern Conference that wasn't Boston or Cleveland, it was going to be Indiana. The way that their depth is operated and how deep into this rotation Rick Carlisle has gone now, I'm sure they haven't really loved some Thomas Bryant minutes or some Ben Shepherd minutes, but man, this team 1 through 7 through 8 is as good as it gets. The way Obi Toppin has given them some solid bench minutes, Aaron Nesmith or Benedict Mathurin, that wing duo has been good. Andrew Nembhard will get all this playoff rising talk. Halliburton gets called a super overrated player, and then he goes off against Milwaukee and against Cleveland, and now they are here in the conference finals. You have a solid front court on both ends of the floor in Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. This is a good team. This is a good team with a lot of depth, and you got TJ McConnell, just the pest of all pests. You could pick up somebody 90 feet the whole floor and just give them a little bit of a tough time. Jarris Walker could get some defensive minutes in this series as well, and they're matched up very well against each other. Now, we know that these two teams went into 7 last year, and it was a good series. The Knicks won the first 2, and this was also, both games were close. The game 1 came down to the wire. Some calls went the Knicks' way. There was that kickball violation that should have been called, if you remember that. Game 2, OG Anunoby has an incredible performance, but he basically pulls his hamstring late in the game on a transition play. He was out the rest of the series until game 7, where we all got hyped that he was going to play game 7. He goes out there, hits a 3. I think he tries to run for 30 seconds, and he's like, I can't do this. He doesn't play again. The Pacers won games 4 and game 5, so we had 2-2. Game 5, the Knicks blew them out. Then they got blown out in game 6, and it really wasn't close in game 7. Brunson went down with an injury when the game was pretty much over anyway. And it was a tough watch. It was a tough way for the Knicks to go out last year, given how much I think everybody loved that team that didn't have Randall, that didn't have Mitchell Robinson. And you would think if the Knicks had some depth to it, they could have made a run. And now we'll get to Julius Randle in the Western Conference side of things. But hey, a healthy Randle could be a different story when he's playing off of a number 1, and that's what Jalen Brunson has proved so far in the playoffs. He's arguably been the best player in the playoffs so far. I think as a whole, since Giannis is out, it's pretty much Brunson. I mean, Shea has been incredible for most of the playoffs. Jokic had his really good games, but he also had some really bad games in round number 2. But Brunson is averaging 28.8 points and shooting 36% from 3 in the playoffs. He's averaging 7.7 assists, and he has just been an unreal story for the Knicks. And there's so many bigger storylines that can come out of this if they make it to the NBA Finals. And I think you're talking about the pedigree of New York athletes. If you're talking about Brunson now as a top 5 Knick of all time, because I mean, as much as I loved Melo, and he was my guy growing up, and I was so excited when they traded for him, and he was the best Knick I got to watch for a while. He never brought the Knicks to the finals. They had 2 playoff appearances, basically, in that Pacers series, which is going to be renewed here like it was last year. They ended up losing, and Melo had, I think, 39 points in their game 6 loss, but he didn't really have a lot of help out there because Amar'e Stoudemire just kind of went down and down every year, and obviously there's the punching of the fire hydrant. But either way, the Knicks have been, I think, it's been frustrating because they win the first 2 games in Boston, and I'm watching that first half, and I'm like, we're down by 20. This is pretty much what I expected. And I was just sitting there now, I'm half watching. I'm like, oh, can we go on a little bit of a run? And then they start to trim down the lead a little bit. And then I'm kind of okay with the 12-point deficit. And the Knicks steal game 1. And then you don't expect it to happen in game number 2. and it does the same exact thing. The Saturday game at 3:30, I was like, no way they win this one at MSG. They get blown out. Game 4, though, they were pretty much going to win that game. You never know what could happen in the final 2 minutes, but they had a pretty solid lead before the Tatum injury, and then they get blown out in game number 5. And then they win game number 6 at home. But this Knicks team is fully healthy right now. Guys are obviously banged up, but this has been the most healthy playoff run they've had because Randall was banged up 2 years ago against Miami. And this team right now, with the way Mitchell Robinson has been playing, like him and Cat have I believe a 15 net rating, plus 15 in the playoffs so far, in their 37 minutes together out there. And Mitchell Robinson really provided a spark for the Knicks off the bench, and they were hacking him in the round 2 series. Mikal Bridges had some really good fourth quarter moments in that series. I think OG could have been a lot better. And the Knicks still won that series. Josh Hart was incredible, and obviously he's a great hustle player. And I think we're going to get some really good hoops because I think the Knicks and the Pacers match up well. I said that the Pacers were going to be the Cavs' first test, and I had the Cavs winning in 7. I was wrong. The Pacers ended up winning in 5. I think Pacers fans are probably annoyed when you bring up their injury luck, which it's technically true. Last year, avoiding Giannis in a banged up game. The Knicks had their injuries. And then this year, same thing with the Bucks, with Dame out, and round 2. There was only game 2, but now the Pacers, they deserve to be here. They've been incredible the last 2 calendar years. They have 8-9 guys that you can trust in a playoff series, which not a lot of teams can say. They're definitely deeper than the Knicks. Maybe their top-end guys aren't as good as the Knicks' top-end guys, but I'm sure they think they're right there. And Tyrese Haliburton has been on like a great run these playoffs, and there was so many good moments in that end of that game too, where Cleveland kind of choked it. I thought they were going to split the series and win that game too with no Garland and Mobley. And they ended up winning that one. Haliburton basically averaging 19 points, shooting 54 from the field in the playoffs, 44 from 3. Struggling a little bit at the free throw line, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they could shoot the ball very well. And they have 8 guys that could shoot the ball from 3 very well. I know Mathurin has been struggling in the playoffs. Haliburton's threes, they've been hit or miss at times, but he's still shooting around 34% in the playoffs. But the Knicks just went up against a good 3-point shooting team. I think they're going to get a little less variance. Like the Celtics went 25 of 100 to start off that series. They're not going to get that in Indiana. I think we're going to get a back and forth series here. A part of me, it's really just kind of how I think the guys around Brunson step up. Will Karl-Anthony Towns do all right against Miles Turner? Will the Knicks deploy the double big lineups a little bit more? Because I think Mitchell Robinson wants to get after boards way better, and he'll be way more active and physical than Siakam and Miles Turner. Miles Turner, not the best rebounder in the world by any means. He's averaging 6 rebounds in the playoffs. He's always kind of been in like that Jaren Jackson tier. Not going to get double-doubles every single night. I think he's got 1 double-double in the playoffs, basically. Siakam is averaging about 6 rebounds a night as well, but they got guys that will crash the glass for sure. They're going to get their long rebounds on offense where guys can cut across the elbows, and Andrew Nembhard will pick up some rebounds. Aaron Nesmith will pick up some rebounds, and he's shooting 48% from 3 in the playoffs, which is kind of incredible. And he's had such a cool story last year against Boston, going up against the team that traded him, and he's really proving his worth. And I know they gave up Brogdon to get him, but I don't think they, like Kevin Pritchard, who is probably one of the more underrated GMs, did not think he was going to turn into this, or maybe he did, and hitting on Nembhard with the 31st pick. And a lot of this team was built from within, with Turner, Nembhard, Mathurin. I guess in a way, like Shepherd from within, Walker from within, but they went out and they traded for Obi Toppin from the Knicks. That's a cool storyline, Obi Toppin versus his former team. I think they're going to try to keep the pace high. The Knicks are going to try to slow the game down like they do. I worry about the Knicks running in transition. I do think there's going to be plenty of times in this series that the Pacers are going to go on a 14-2 run. And they're going to have a 14-point lead or 16-point lead multiple times in the series. If I had to take a guess who's going to have more double-digit leads, I'd assume it's going to be Indiana, because they can really go on their avalanches, something we saw from the Thunder in Game 7 against Denver. They can really turn the series, a game on its head right away. And I don't think the Knicks have that in them right now. I think they make a lot of dumb transition turnovers, especially when the momentum is on their side. I think they play way too fast, and they got to just slow it down a little bit when things are going their way. Nothing I trust more, though, than Josh Hart attacking the rim with a full head of steam. And it usually ends up well for the Knicks. I think the series is at least going to 6 games, no matter where it ends up going. I could see them splitting at the Garden. The Knicks took the first 2 in the Garden last year. And I think the series will be tied 2-2 at one point. but it's just how does game 5 go? How does game 6 go? Will there be any injuries? Will guys get into foul trouble at all in the playoffs? I mean, Aaron Nesmith has been averaging 4 fouls a night in the playoffs. I mean, if Brunson does what he does well and he can draw contact and use just sometimes it could be foul baiting, sometimes it could be head movement, sometimes he actually does get fouled. If you can get Aaron Nesmith in foul trouble, that is huge. I think you'd let Benedict Mathurin, who hasn't been as good as Nesmith in the playoffs, beat you. You let Obi Toppin try to beat you. He can obviously be a little inconsistent from 3, but when it's going, it's going. He's obviously a great backdoor guy, can cut very well, and can catch alley-oops and run in transition and get the crowd behind you. I mean, Indiana's a great crowd as well. I was looking at going to Indiana for one of these games, but after like flight, hotel, ticket, coming out to like close to $800, and that's what like the Knicks tickets are going for. So I'm like, I'd rather just spend $800 to go to MSG and be with the home crowd, because it is tough to go into enemy territory. I do applaud people that end up doing it. I think, man, it's tough. I want to take the Pacers in this series. I just think the Knicks are getting not a lucky, and the Knicks have had, I think, a little bit of a tougher road than Indiana so far. Like, I think Detroit would have been more physical and provided more of a challenge than Milwaukee to Indiana. I mean, you could say Cleveland was pretty much on par with Boston. Boston loses Tatum for a game and a half, or two plus games. Garland and Mobley got hurt. I don't know, but Indiana like kind of steamrolled them. And the thing that scares me about New York is like they were down, man. They were down by 15 and 20 in games 1 and 2, and they were down in game 4 by double digits. I just think the Indiana Pacers have a higher like chance of just not doing that in the series, just to say bluntly. So I'm gonna take Indiana in 6. Or do I want to take them in 7? It's just like the 6. Yeah, I'll take them in 7. I think this series, we could see a game 7. Maybe I'm doing a reverse jinx, because obviously I'm going to be rooting for my Knicks. I just want to root for good basketball. I mean, I'm going to enjoy the Western Conference Finals as a neutral fan so much more than I'm going to enjoy this series, because I'm going to be on the edge of my seat through all X amount of games in this series, stressing out, worrying about it. And then with tip-offs, I'm like, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be stressing my mind out. I'll ask like my girlfriend to feel my heart rate. Like, it's insane at the end of the game. I'm like, this is insane how like a game does this to me, because you're so invested into these guys. And maybe it's just because my Knicks have never made it to the conference finals since I've been a fan. That was 2005. So I was born when they went to the conference finals in the early 2000s, but I wasn't watching sports yet. I didn't understand anything that was going on. I do think there's a path for the Knicks to win the series 100%. I'm more confident that the Knicks can win this series than I did against Boston. I had Boston beating New York in 5. And yeah, I just think they're playing great basketball right now. And I think their margin of error is just like so much lower than the Knicks. I think the Knicks will beat themselves. I don't think the Pacers will beat themselves. Like I said, I think it can go either way, but I'm going to take the Pacers to win in 7 and make it to their first NBA Finals in a while, something they didn't do with Paul George. And I think Tyrese Haliburton is really going to cement himself and Pacers' legacy and history with this run that they're on. And I think either team can win the NBA Finals. I don't think they'd be favorites against OKC. I think the Knicks would be favorites against Minnesota. I don't know who would be favored in a series. I guess it depends how the previous one goes between Minnesota and Indiana. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Pacers in 7. So that pained me to say as a Knicks fan. But we're going to go over to the Western Conference where, like I said, I'm going to have a lot more fun, I think, watching this series. I just think we get to watch Shea versus Ant. And you don't realize it in the moment. And I do appreciate parity. But I do like when we get rematches a series. Like in 5 years from now, especially if we get maybe another matchup between them, like looking at Tyrese Haliburton and Jalen Brunson and the rivalry they could create in the playoffs, I love that. That's what you think of like Dirk versus Kevin Durant on the Thunder, or Dirk versus Kobe and the Lakers, or Kobe and the Lakers versus Duncan and the Spurs. Even like people to this day still talk about Paul George in such a way of nostalgia against the Miami Heat with LeBron James. Maybe not as much as Toronto versus Miami, because they never really won, or Cleveland. But it is really cool just to talk about these rivalries down the line. And I hope we get many OKC Minnesota playoff series, because I think the way we're going to look at Shea in 15 years, the way we're going to look at Ant in 15 years, it's the next generation, basically. It's the way we're looking at LeBron, Steph, KD. I don't know if they're going to reach those levels. Hey, Shea, I'm recording this and they haven't announced MVP yet, which is weird, but assume he's going to win MVP this year. I would not be shocked if Anthony Edwards won MVP at least once in his career. We're going to look back on these guys as some of the best players of the next generation. And I think we can look at this like this is the first time they met. You look back in time, first time 2 stars meet in the playoffs. It's like, whoa, this was the start of a rivalry. This was the start of a legacy they created. And I think this is going to be an amazing series. I'm really happy that it's Minnesota versus the Thunder. I've talked about Shea versus Ant, but I think Julius Randle has done a complete 180 with his playoff resume. I mean, the 2021 playoffs were not kind to him against Atlanta, but you look at that Knicks team, you had a very young RJ Barrett, you had Derrick Rose, you had Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, not a lot of talent. Frank Ntilikina in the fourth quarter at times, not a lot of talent to help out Julius Randle. So the Hawks, with either deploying Herter, Hunter, anybody around Trae Young, or excuse me, around Randle, they were fine. The Knicks Cavs series, he did struggle as well. The Knicks had a lot of complimentary pieces step up, like Grimes and Quickly in those series, and Josh Hart, obviously. And against the Heat, we found out that he had a really bad ankle. So this is his first true playoff run, because he was out last year with the separated shoulder, that he has really been healthy and has had some help on offense. And we're seeing him play around 37 minutes a night. He's averaging 24 points, shooting 50% from the field, 35% from three, and 89% from the free throw line, 6 assists. He's averaging around 3 turnovers, but I'm just really happy to see Julius Randle playing some of the best basketball of his career at maybe the perfect time. Like, I think it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to get extended from Minnesota. Well, he opted into that player option, but he's playing himself into some money. Anthony Edwards has had some up and down games in the playoffs, still averaging 26.5 points. I think this team has a ton of 3-point variance right now that, you know what, against the Lakers, not the deepest team in the world, the best defensive team in the world, against the Warriors with no Steph Curry from game 2 and on, or game 1 and on, it's okay, right? Like, it's okay to not shoot well from 3, but against the Thunder, you need to be better. You need to be better from downtown. The margin for error is so thin in this series against the best team in the NBA this year, net rating wise. They were the best defensive team, and we just watched them be an unreal defensive team down the stretch against Denver. And the way they were able to deploy Alex Caruso and Jokic, I'm like, man, watching or seeing that series unfold on Twitter, I'm so happy I'm not part of the Jokic or Shea debates all year long. I have been enjoying both of their games as a neutral fan. I don't have a dog in that fight. I did not care who won that series at all, which I really enjoy. And man, it is so toxic online between foul calls and how that series went. And I wonder how it's going to be in this series as well. They avoided each other last year because Minnesota beat Denver. OKC lost to Dallas. And we're going to see how they're going to guard Shea, because Shea's going to get to his spots no matter what in the half court. And I think the way you have to play this is you got to just let other guys beat you, right? Like, can you trust Alex Caruso to hit his open threes? Can you trust J-Dub to hit his open threes, or Aaron Wiggins, or Isaiah Joe, or Chet Holmgren? It's going to be tough. It is, man. I mean, they're the best team in the NBA. They're super deep. They basically just got the best role player possible for this team that stepped up so much in round number 2 in Alex Caruso, and has been worth every single penny for them right now, and how much he gives an effort on the defensive end of the floor, and the fact that he's shooting 42% from 3 in the playoffs, that's just an added bonus. Like, it really is. Dort's been struggling from downtown in the playoffs. Even Shea, J-Dub, and like Chet, like, they've all been inconsistent. And when these games get further and further in the playoffs, threes are not going to go in as much. And if you look at like any NBA legends or a lot of great players of all times, playoff numbers, their efficiency is going to drop a couple points. Not a lot of guys have shot over 37% from 3 in an 80-game playoff sample size on the volume of 5-6 threes a night. It's just really tough because the defense is going to be tighter. The pressure is going to be intensified more. And I'm not expecting a bunch of threes to go down throughout this series because of the way these teams play defensively. And the Timberwolves, they're a good defensive team. They are. They're better than Denver defensively, in my opinion. And they have the depth as well. I don't know how much of a factor Mike Conley's going to be in this series, depending if he's not hitting his shots either. Nickeil Alexander-Walker needs to be a lot better. I talked about Randle kind of peaking at the right time. Noah, he's a free agent at the end of the year. I still think he'll get the mid-level exception out there, but he has not been shooting the ball well in the playoffs. Dante, neither has he these playoffs. McDaniels has been fine. Randle and Ant, like, fine. It's evening itself out, and Naz Reid has been good as well. But I think they're really just going to have to be a better three-point shooting team. They're going to have to figure out their lineups out there with, if they roll Chet to the 5, which I think OKC should do a little bit more often, because those lineups by those metrics are really good with Hartenstein off the floor, and you have Chet playing the 5. I think Minnesota is going to have to get very creative with having Gobert out there, because we know how he can look on the perimeter if you get switched onto him. But Gobert's had very good defensive moments in the playoffs, and I'm glad that Gobert has been showcasing that. You know, there's a reason why Minnesota got me, and hey, since they got me, in 2023, They ended up making it to, well, they lost in round 1 to Denver, right? 2024, they end up beating Denver in round 2, and they end up making it to the conference finals. So, yeah, Gobert and Ant, like, it's worked out well. I think this is a time for Ant to show that he should belong in that Jason Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander talks. You may already think he's already there, but I think, like, when you're looking at the greater landscape of the league, you got Jokic, Giannis, Shai, I think is in everybody's first tier. Depending on how Shai ends up this year, you may have Shai's the best player in the NBA. I still would have Jokic 1, Giannis 2, Shai 3. And then that 4 spot, I mean, Luka, like, he hasn't really helped this case this year. Embiid's been injured. Tatum, now you don't know how he's going to look after the ruptured Achilles. This is where Anthony Edwards can have just another elite playoff series victory because he's beating Kevin Durant. They swept him last year. He's beaten Nikola Jokic coming off an NBA title last year. He's beaten LeBron and Luka this year. And he beat Steph and Jimmy, but Steph was hurt, so I don't think it really means as much as it would have if Steph was out there. But if you can take down the best team in the NBA, that's why I was so impressed from Denver. I mean, getting the Clippers draw in round 1, you could have lost that series, but the fact that they took OKC to 7 was so impressive because this OKC team is so good, and they still won the series with J-Dub not shooting well, and a lot of guys, including Lou Dort, shooting the basketball well. So I'm really intrigued to see how McDaniels guards Shai in this series. I'm really intrigued to see how Caruso guards Anthony Edwards in this series. I think it's going to be fun. I'm hoping nobody gets hurt in this series, obviously in any series, but both teams are relatively healthy, and I think we are set up for an unreal conference finals from both teams because I think both teams match up very well. I think Minnesota can give OKC the best shot out of anybody in that bottom half of that bracket. More than LA or Golden State or Houston. So I'm really excited that these were the conference finals. Obviously, I have a little bit of selfishness to that because I'm happy the Knicks are in it. I'm sure people would have enjoyed Boston and Indiana at full strength either way. But yeah, I do think that OKC, I mean, they were the best team in the NBA all year long. And I think even with their weaknesses so far in the playoffs, they've still been able to persevere and be just fine. I'm going to have OKC to win in 6 games. I think they're still like I said, best team in the NBA. I don't think these guys are going to shoot this bad for this long. And I think we're going to just see Minnesota, I think, struggle a little bit offensively in this game because they're going up against the best defense they played yet. Golden State's defense, obviously great with Jimmy Butler in the second half, but man, this is another beast you're walking into. It really is. I don't know if Julius Randle is going to have as much success as he did against Draymond Green, which was very impressive, against Hardenstein and Dort and Caruso and Chet and J-Dub even and Aaron Wiggins. I think they're too talented head to toe. I think they're fairly well coached, and I do have I guess if I had to give conference finals predictions, right, like, or awards, Shai takes home the West during conference finals MVP, right? And then the East, it could get interesting. Like, one of Siakam has a fantastic series, but I would say I would default to Halliburton. If the Knicks make it out, obviously Brunson, and if the Timberwolves make it out, obviously Ant. So this sets up a Pacers Thunder NBA Finals. And I think that would just be a really fun NBA Finals. I would definitely take the OKC Thunder if that happened. And I would take the OKC Thunder against my Knicks if the Knicks ended up making it. I think it can get a little bit interesting if Minnesota pulls off the upset, which, hey, in that series, I don't care who wins. I do not care who wins in the West. As a neutral fan, I mean, there's a really fun Knicks Timberwolves because of the trade, the Cat, the Randall, the DiVincenzo storyline in the NBA Finals. I think that may be some of the best stuff out there. I mean, Minnesota's never won a title, and the Knicks haven't won in 50 years. Thunder haven't won a title since becoming the Thunder. Pacers haven't won a title either. So, yeah, I think no matter who ends up winning these series, I just want good games. Maybe I would like the Knicks to win, but hey, if they lose, they lose. And I'm going to give the Pacers their flowers and their respect this year for how well they played from October when Halliburton was disappointing at the start of the year. And here they are, potentially able to go to the NBA Finals. So yeah, I want to know your guys' conference finals predictions. I ended up going with Pacers in 7 and Thunder in 6. You guys can let me know what you have in the comments below. Did you agree, disagree with anything I said? And if you guys are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, really appreciate a rating and review over there. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.